Okay guys, so today you're going to be completing your Year 10 Ecosystems and Tropical Rainforest Assessment for AQA GCSE. So the first thing we're going to ask you to do is put your full name on this top line. And then put your class teacher. So you might just want to put the initials. I'm just going to write KP for Miss Pepin's class. Now, this is the title for your assessment, and obviously it's your first assessment, and this will go on your report. You will get a mark for this paper out of 40. We will then use that to work out a percentage, and then hopefully we will work out a GCSE grade for you from 9 to 1. When your teacher marks your assessment, they will complete some things you did well by writing the question numbers in, and some things that you can focus on for areas of improvement. So things like, have you read the question carefully? Have you used resources and figures accurately? Have you used keywords? Have you used any definitions of any keywords? Case study examples, which are critically important in geography. Have you extended your answers, giving a point, explaining it by providing evidence and elaborating on it? And again, geographical vocab and spelling, punctuation and grammar are all included in the mark scheme, so be careful of that. Okay, so if we just look at the instructions for your assessment, there's actually a mistake on the front of the paper, so I'm going to correct it here. So you've got to use either blue or black ink. You've got to answer all the questions. You've got to answer the questions in the spaces provided. We can't stress this enough because otherwise you won't get the marks. And if for whatever reason you make a mistake, just cross through any work that you don't want to be marked. All the marks for the questions are shown in brackets, typically at the end of each question. The paper is out of 40, and specifically for spelling, punctuation and grammar, this is going to be in question 12, so there'll be an extra 3 marks in question 12, and that is for spelling, punctuation and grammar. Okay guys, so let's get started. So if we look at the first question, question 1, complete the statement by circling the correct answer, and this is worth 1 mark. So a biotic part of an ecosystem is. Now it's asking you here to show your understanding. So the key word in this question is biotic. So these are your 3 choices. So you've got option A, the soil, option B, the sunshine, or option C, a tree, or option D, water. So you can only select one. And that is because it is worth 1 mark. So circle that answer. Okay, if we move on to question 2, same thing again. Complete the statement by circling the correct answer. 1 mark, so there's only 1 correct answer. So this time it's asking you a producer is. So the key word in this question is producer. So is it A, something that breaks down dead material? Is it B, something that can use sunlight energy to make food? Is it C, something that eats other things? Or is it D, something that lives in the sky? Okay, moving on to question 3. Which one of the following is an example of a decomposer? Decomposer is our key word. Again, it is worth 1 mark. And it's asking you again to circle the correct answer. So is it A, a bird, B, bacteria, C, a ladybird, or D, a fox? Okay, moving on to question 4. Complete the statement by circling the correct answer. Worth 1 mark, therefore there's only 1 correct answer. The tropical rainforest can be found. So the key word here is tropical rainforest. So is it A, on or near the equator? Now remember, the equator is that imaginary line that runs through the centre of the earth. Is it B, 15 degrees north and south of the equator? Again, this imaginary line that runs through the centre of the earth. Is it C, in northern Canada? So think about your compass directions. Never eat shredded wheat. Or is it D, in the mid-latitudes? Okay, moving on to question 5. Which statement best, okay, so it's not necessarily a perfect reason, but we want the best description. So which statement best describes the tropical rainforest? Again, 1 mark, 1 correct answer. Again, it wants you to circle the correct answer. So is it A, trees are evergreen because temperatures are high all year? Is it B, trees drop leaves in winter to cope with the lower temperatures? Is it C, the vegetation? Think about what the word vegetation means. Is sparse. Think about what the word sparse means, because there's not too much rainfall. Or is it D, the growing season is very short? If you want to turn the page, we'll move on to question 6. So question 6 is a longer type of answer. There will be a mixture of different sized questions and marks available in the paper. So question 6 is asking you to describe the features of a small scale ecosystem in the UK. Now we're going to break this question down. So we need to be thinking about describe. What does describe mean? Well, describe means to say what you see. It's asking for some features. So what's a feature? Now if we think about it in terms of a small scale ecosystem, you must ask yourself, what is an ecosystem? So could it be anything to do with weather? Is it hot? Is it cold? Could it be to do with vegetation? What type of vegetation is that? Is it asking for anything like animals? What kind of animals live there? Is there anything else? For example, the geology. And that means soil and rock. Now remember, this specific example is asking for a UK example. And it's worth 3 marks. So think 3 marks, 3 points. If we move on to the next one, next question, question 7. Now question 7, if I just move this up slightly so you can see it, question 7 says using figure 1. So first thing you have to do is you have to look at figure 1. Now figure 1 is above us, and this is figure 1, as it clearly says up here. Now figure 1 is a diagram of a food web for a woodland ecosystem. So it doesn't matter if you've not looked at a woodland ecosystem in class. What matters is you applying your knowledge to the question. So it's asking you to answer the following questions using figure 1. So again, let's look at question 7a. Using figure 1, so using the same type of language as above. This time it's asking you to explain. Now think about what the word explain means. To give reason. Now we have to explain what might happen. So this is not you saying what will happen, but what potentially could happen. And it's asking you to focus on the number of caterpillars. So if I look at the word caterpillars and look back to figure 1, I can see a caterpillar here. So we're constantly thinking about this part of figure 1. Now we need to know what might happen to the number of caterpillars as well as wood beetles. Again, going back to the figure, looking at the wood beetle too. If disease kills off the ladybirds, So this is thinking about chains of reasoning now. And again, we need to look at our ladybirds. Now this question is worth 2 marks. Because it's an explain type question, it's going to be 1 mark for some type of use of the figure, as well as 1 mark for your actual explanation. Now that explanation is very important because that's what's going to get you full marks. Move on to question 7b. This time it's asking us to explain again. So again, what does explain mean? It means to give reasons. Asking you to explain how this ecosystem, so this particular ecosystem we are looking at, is still referring back to figure 1. So this ecosystem is a woodland ecosystem. Again, doesn't matter if you've learned about a woodland ecosystem, it's asking you to apply your knowledge. And how this woodland ecosystem might be affected if more hawks were introduced into the area. So this time we're focusing on the hawks in the diagram. So if we look back at figure 1, this time we're focusing on the hawk. And what might happen if there is more hawks within this woodland ecosystem? So think about your food web and think about, what does the hawk eat, the blackbird and the thrush? What would it mean if we introduce more hawks into the ecosystem? Now if we go back to the question, this question is worth 4 marks. So a bit different to the question before, question 7a. This time we're looking for 2 points. So 2 potential reasons in which more hawks might affect this ecosystem. And each point has to be explained. So if you've got 2 points and each need to be explained, you need to explain them twice. Again, very important. To access these 2 additional marks, you must explain. Let's look at the next question. So, question 8 is asking us to use figure 2. Figure 2 is above us. So if we look above us, we've got this figure, figure 2. Now figure 2 is a diagram showing the structure of the tropical rainforest. So we can see here we've got different trees and different layers of the rainforest. So we must refer to this when we are talking about the layers of the rainforest. That's what the question wants. So going back to the question, this time the question is asking us to describe and to explain. So if we think about what describe means again, say what you see. So what do you see in figure 2 above you? And then remember, explain. Explain is to give reasons. Now this particular question is asking us to look at the features of the vegetation. So if we think about features of vegetation, could we talk about height? Could we talk about colour? Could we talk about size in terms of width, so how thick the trees are? Could we be talking about the leaves? These are the specific features it wants you to refer to. Now again, it wants you to refer to the features shown in the photograph, so again the photograph above you. Now this question is very different to the others. It's a 6 mark question. Now 6 mark questions are marked a bit differently. They're not points scored. They work on a levelled type of mark. So your top level is level 3. you can get between 5 to 6 marks, and that is for detail being provided. Second level is level 2. Now for level 2, you get between 3 to 4 marks, and that means your response is very clear, but does not have enough detail. The last level is level 1. You're only limited to 1 to 2 marks here because your answer is very basic. So in order to get 5 out of 6 marks, you must give detail. So your argument needs to be balanced. You must use the figure. And most importantly, you must use your own knowledge. Now think about things like height, colour, size, the leaves. You might even want to think about density, so how many trees there are. Question 9 now. Now question 9 is asking you again to use figure 3. Now figure 3 again is directly above you, so let's look at figure 3. So figure 3 is a climate graph for a tropical rainforest region. So it doesn't matter what tropical rainforest it's talking about, we know it's talking about a tropical rainforest. Now a climate graph has your months of the year running along the bottom axis. Up this side you have rainfall, and to the right, temperature. Now it's very important that for rain, you're looking at the bars. So all these different bars, and you're using the left-hand side of the axis. For temperature, you're looking at the points and the line, and this time you're using the right-hand side of the axis. Don't get the two axes confused. Okay, so left for bars, right for the line. So let's look at this question. So this question is asking you to use figure 3 that we've just talked about. It's asking you to describe. So we know that describe means to say what you see. Now it's asking you to describe the climate. So we know that this is a climate graph, so we're talking about climate within the tropical rainforest, and it's worth 4 marks. Now for 4 marks, and considering it's a describe question, we need to say what we see. Now when it comes to things like graphs and climate graphs, the best thing to do is to give an overall picture first. So your first point you're going to make is what is the general pattern. So for example, does rainfall increase or decrease? Does the temperature increase or decrease? And that's you giving a general pattern. Second point you need to make is your maximum and minimum figures. So what's your highest amount of rainfall? What's your lowest amount of rainfall? What's your highest temperature? What's your lowest temperature? Again, this one, very, very important that you mention the months of the year. Must be mentioned. Now to get that level of detail into the maximum and minimum, your third point you need to make is you need to quote figures. How many millimetres of rain fell, for example, in January compared to June? What was the temperature, for example, in degrees Celsius in July compared to November? You must always, fourth point, use measurements. So we're going to make a general pattern description. We're going to use maximum and minimum figures using months of the year, and we're going to quote figures. So we're actually going to quote numbers. And then we're going to use measurements, so millimetres and degrees Celsius. Let's move on to the next question. So question 10. Using figure 4. Again, figure 4 is above us, so let's look at figure 4. So figure 4 is a map to show the distribution. Now all distribution means is pattern, so don't need to worry about the language. This is showing us the pattern of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest. So think about what deforestation means. Now what we notice from the map is the darkest shaded areas, if we use our key, are the areas of deforestation. Whereas your lighter colours are where there has been deforestation. So these colours here, darker grey. And then areas of the untouched forest. Okay, now I know these two can be hard to distinguish, but we can still see the difference between the areas that have been deforested recently and places that have been deforested in the past. So we can at least use that for the question. So if we go back to the question, we're going to use figure 4, which we've just gone through above. We're going to describe the distribution. Now again, we know that distribution means pattern. We know that describe means to say what you say. It's asking you to describe the pattern of deforestation. So think of that as a key word. What is deforestation? And again, in the Amazon rainforest. And this question is worth 3 marks. So for a describe type of question, 3 marks means we have to make 3 points. So your first point you might like to make is, what is the overall pattern? Is it close together? Is it far apart? What's the overall pattern of deforestation? Second point you might like to make is to use compass directions. So is the deforestation in the north? Is it in the south? Is it in the east? Or is it west? The third point you might like to make is to use some locations. So actual place names. So is deforestation happening only in Brazil? Is it happening north or south of, for example, Venezuela or Bolivia or Peru? Now question 11 is asking us to circle the statement which best describes tropical rainforest soil. Again, 1 mark. 1 mark means 1 answer. So let's have a look. Is it A, deep with few nutrients? Is it B, infertile with rapid nutrient recycling? Is it C, alkaline, thin and fertile? Think about what fertile means. Or is it D, deep with slow recycling of nutrients? Let's look at question 12. So question 12 is asking us to assess. Now we need to think about what the word assess means. Now assess means to make some type of decision, to weigh up different factors. Might be advantages, might be disadvantages, but it's a decision that the question wants. Now it's asking us to assess social. Think about what the word social means. We will need to get that into our question. Economic. Think about what economic means. And environmental. Think about what environmental means. Now this question is asking you to focus solely on the impacts of deforestation. Deforestation being our key word. So the social, economic and environmental impacts of deforestation in a rainforest area that you specifically have studied. So this is a 9-mark question, and you get those 3 additional marks for SPAG. So for a 9-mark question, it is level marked. And what that means is that in order to get a level 3 type of answer, which is detailed, and that will give you 7 to 9 marks. For a level 2 type of answer, you need to have a clear answer, which will give you between 4 and 6 marks. For a level 1 answer, you'll provide a basic answer, and you'll be limited to 1 to 3 marks. So for a detailed answer, 7 to 9 marks, you must give an area that you have studied. So you must provide a case study example. Think about what you learn in class. You then need to show some understanding. Now the question is asking you for social, economic and environmental impacts. So for your understanding, you must show that you know at least 1 social, 1 economic and 1 environmental impact of deforestation. You then need to be able to apply your knowledge. And all you're doing to apply your knowledge is to say why it is an impact. Now again, going back to the command word for the question, it is to assess. So at the end of the question, you need to assess. Which impact is the greatest? You might decide it's the social impacts. You might decide it's the economic impacts. You might decide it's the environmental impacts. Now that is all to get the 9 marks for this question. Then we have to take into account the 3 extra SPAG marks. And what that means is in this question, you need to include geographical words. So if we look down here and we think about some keywords. Now this is all to do with tropical rainforests. Could that be a keyword that we could include? It's also to do with deforestation. Could that be a keyword to use? It is also about social, economic and environmental impacts. Could these potentially be keywords to use? Now, not only with our keywords, we also need to be thinking about overall spelling, so take your time. We need to be thinking about punctuation. So full stops, commas, capital letters, and also grammar. So using the right there, for there. So take your time with this question.